Half Shell Oyster House offers happy hour at the bar and throughout the restaurant every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Happy hour includes $2 off all glasses of wine, liquor, martinis, mixed drinks, and draft beer, $2.50 on all domestic bottled beer, and $3.50 on all craft bottled beer. So come on out to Half Shell Oyster House, located at 115 Lower Park Cove, Suite 105, Flowood, Mississippi 39232, or you can give them a call at 769-257-7586. And hey, tell them Sonia sent you.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports. Today I have with me Treasurer for Maryland Black Republican and former President of Young Republican Southern Maryland Chapter. Please welcome Julian Boykin. Hey Julian, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
It is so good to see you. I'm doing well. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Excuse me.
Let's see. Born and raised Madison, Mississippi. Graduated from Madison Central, and from there went to Jackson State. Graduated. I'd say 2004, but technically it's 2003 because back then Jackson State didn't have December graduations. So back then, if you wanted to graduate in December, you could, but if you like my mom, she's like, no, you walk across the stage. I had to wait until May to graduate.
Okay.
So
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
after that, moved to Huntsville, Alabama, Madison, Alabama area, and stayed there. That's like my second home. So I was there up until about maybe 2017. So That's where I met my wife. That's where I established a lot of my roots post-college as far as my undergrad. So was able to obtain 2 advanced degrees while living in Alabama. So been doing a lot of work with government, a lot of top secret programs, things of that nature, as well as working in corporate America, as also doing some IT work as a C-suite executive.
Okay. And I've known you maybe 6 years now, but had no clue you were born and raised in Mississippi in the Jackson-Madison area. I mean, really Madison area. I had no clue about that. Didn't know you went to Jackson State. We actually met through a Facebook Greek page. He's a member of Omega Psi Phi Incorporated. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, and it's a Coleman Love thing. So we met through there, but I never knew that. I knew you were in Huntsville, so I always assumed you were born and raised there. Wow. The more you know.
Yeah, a lot of people assume that based upon me being a Q, which is where I entered the fraternity in the state of Alabama at a graduate chapter in Huntsville. So a lot of people, if you're part of a Greek organization, you would associate with me. No, that's Julian. He's from Alabama. But if you really know me, I'm from Mississippi, born and raised.
Wow. Very interesting. And I heard we may be cousins, so we'll chat about that later. So that's why I liked you. I knew it was something about you. So Julian, I brought you on today to discuss a very important topic, especially it seems in our community, politics and sports. Through the years, we have always dealt with politics and sports, but it seems to be more prevalent in our climate in the society right now. I don't know what's going on. It seems very heightened. Why do you think politics and sports seems to be so heightened today?
I think a lot of it has to do with what was done under the rug as it relates to players being paid under the table. So now with NIL.
What do you mean? Like what?
When I was coming up in college, it was very common for a player to get paid for having great games.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't have to pay a player under the table anymore because now it's front and center with the NIL deals, the name, image, and likeness. All of that is front and center, is honest. So a player can go and market himself or herself for profit now. You don't have to do that under the table, and it makes it a little bit more political just from the standpoint of now a school is going to see how they can benefit from that. And then when you look at how sports and politics plays in hands, case in point with Kyrie Irving, with the statement he made about just telling people to watch a documentary and how it's a spinoff. You know, a lot of people have asked me, well, do you support what Kyrie has said? I said, I don't support it from the standpoint of what's the end game. When you make a statement like that, what is the theme, strategy? What's the goal? What's your end game? Because when you do that and you have the following that he has, it has to be some type of end game. It has to be, okay, don't just go for step one and you figure out step two later. You have to be 5 to 10 moves ahead and show a pattern as far as this is what I'm doing, but this is really my end game. I just got to get you guys over here to see why I said what I said and the way I said it. And I don't think that it's being promoted that way. I think it's being promoted in a negative way. You know, hey, if you disagree with the video, the documentary, fine. I just think that now we as human beings, we get criticized for our First Amendment rights, which is the right to freedom of free speech. I'm not saying that it's okay to say whatever you want, however you want, but you got to say it in a certain context to where it's not being disrespectful to other people or their ethnic groups.
So is it what Kyrie said that landed him in hot water, or the fact he attempted to equivocate it to the African-American experience or the Native American experience?
I think it's more so of what he said and the group behind it and how they felt. You know, if he would have said something about the African-American community, it probably would have fell on deaf ears. But,
and that's the problem.
Right.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. You know, I think it's a double standard if America is upset about when you say something as it relates to the Jewish community, you know, it's viewed as anti-Semitic. That's wrong. But if it's about the Black community, it's like water off a duck's back. And I'm like, wait a minute. Both of those should have the same amount of weight. It shouldn't just be all or nothing. It should be equally dispersed. You know, if one ethnic group or one group itself feels disrespected, it should be the same way across the board. It's, you know, one group shouldn't get a pass. Well, he talking about his own people. We're not going to address it. No, it needs to be addressed.
That's true. That is true. So you said something. It'll come back to me. So let me ask you this, Julian: are we too segmented to enjoy sports anymore, or have we always been segmented, but social media has heightened it?
Social media has definitely heightened our awareness. You know, now the push is the lie. The lie is the truth, and the truth is a lie. So for your audience that may be kind of thrown off by what I just said, now if you push a lie enough, it becomes truth. If you push it enough and you get enough support for it, that lie is no longer a lie. Now it's the truth. Even though if there's no evidence to support the lie that you're pushing, it automatically becomes the truth because it went viral, so it has to be true. But when you push the truth, it is viewed as a lie. Prime example, somebody may say, well, the election was still stolen from President Trump, but when you say, hey, where is the evidence to support that? Then people are quiet. When you ask, okay, what evidence can you show me for me to even acknowledge, hey, you have a point that needs to be addressed, then it you know, people kind of get quiet. But that lie has been pushed so much that people actually believe it's true and still believe that it's true. So when you push the truth out and says, hey, the Supreme Court viewed all evidence according to the Trump campaign, and it was determined that they had insufficient evidence, so we're going to have to throw out the case. That part has been shown, but people still don't want to accept that.
So you do believe that the election was not stolen?
I don't believe the election was stolen. At the end of the day, the Trump campaign presented the evidence to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court looked at it, reviewed it, heard what they had to say, gave them a fair and reasonable opportunity to state their claim. It was not enough sufficient evidence, so therefore the case was overturned and was thrown out due to just lack of evidence. Now, it could be the case where the Supreme Court has the last say-so and looked at the evidence and said, well, they have enough evidence, but we have the last say-so, so we're going to say no. No one can prove that claim, so therefore I can only go by what I'm being told, which is evidence was presented on behalf of the Trump campaign, and the Supreme Court ruled against the Trump campaign based on lack of evidence. Not to say that the evidence that they presented was sufficient and valid. It's just that what they presented was not good enough based on what they were claiming.
Thank you for being a logical Republican. Um, it needs to be logic on both sides, but I do appreciate that. I see you on social media and you push the buttons a lot. You do it on purpose. You play devil's advocate quite a bit because you know you're pushing buttons, and a lot of people, they come right on. And I don't even, sometimes I don't even like it or comment. I just read it because I know what you're doing. But it's getting people to think, and it's getting people to talk, and it's not a bad thing. So kudos to that.
I try to look at things from a different lens, and I tell people, I'm a Black man born and raised in Mississippi. It doesn't get no worse than that.
Yeah.
So when people start talking, I'm like, you talking to a Black man born and raised in Mississippi. It doesn't get any worse than that. So what's your excuse? So having to give an opportunity to live on the East Coast, live in the Maryland, DC area, and be blessed to be at the White House, be around senators, congressmen, legislators, and meet the vice president, and be a part of those discussions for free. Didn't have to pay for it. I'm like, that's a blessing. But I learned something. I learned Republicans and Democrats, they don't hate each other. They just hate each other on TV for us, for face value. So we can hate each other because unity promotes, it blocks out hate. When we unify, we block out hate, we block out all confusion. But when we're angry at each other, we're divided. And when we're divided, you don't see the real picture. You don't understand what's being done. So I can have this group over here angry at each other, but the whole time I'm trying to slip something through on legislation, and once it passes, you don't even realize what just happened.
What just happened, and that's what you see that a lot now.
Right. I just need you to know that I don't like Sonya, but truth be told, me and Sonya are going to smoke and drink as soon as this is over with. We just need to get a certain legislation passed. We're gonna go smoke a cigar. We're gonna go have a drink. This is what politicians do. They don't hate each other. They truly do not hate each other. They're in the business of staying in DC as long as they can, as often as they can, and they work in tandem with each other.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. So back to the politics and sports. Julian, how concerning is that a growing number of prominent athletes push or amplify conspiracy theories? And let me give you an example. I mean, back in the day, being woke used to mean pro-science, intellectual, based in history and fact. Now woke looks anti-intellectual, based in conspiratorial belief, and thinking outside the box isn't grounded in historical accuracy. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're being programmed now to thrive off of drama. Facts, when you hear facts and dispute facts, the truth does two things to people. It'll make you angry and it'll make you quiet. But conspiracy, it sparks conversation.
Right.
It sparks drama. It sparks something to go viral, something to become trendy. And once you do that and you get it going, it's like a ball of yarn. Once you let it go and it starts to unravel, it's hard to stop it. And I think we got to get away from the conspiracy, and we got to get back to the basics. What's the theme? What's the strategy? What's the goal? What's your end game behind creating this little conspiracy theory? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to take my attention from, so I can't watch you do or say certain things? What is it? That's what I look at when I see certain conspiracies, especially as it relates to sports and things of that nature. What's the end game behind it? Why are we talking about it, and what's the point of bringing it up? Is it something we need to be aware of, or is it something you don't want us to see?
Interesting. That's good. So, it's amazing to me how you made a very valid point regarding social media, and how, to me, it kind of dumbs everybody down, because this generation behind us, and including us too, we spend a lot of time on social media, a lot of time. Some of us wake up, picking up our phones, going to social media. You go to bed to social media. Your phone is so smart, it even tells you how much time you spend on, screen time. And most of it is social media, IG, Twitter, Facebook, what have you. It's amazing how, I think because we're not doing a lot of people are not reading anymore. We used to read a lot. I know I did. And I need to start reading again. I used to read probably like 8 to 9 books a year. And that's probably minimum to some people, but having a job and, life, you just don't have time. But now I find myself not even wanting to pick up books. I'd rather just look at my phone. And it's dumbing us down as not only a community, but as a country. And you, like you said, you believe in everything you see on social media. The bigger the scandal, the most, if it has a billion views, I'm just saying a billion, then you want to see it. Everybody wants to, it's believable. But I mean, how can we get back to the basics? I mean, is there a way to get back to the basics?
If it is the end, it must begin with you. So it has to go from a collective as a whole. We got to go back to the individual. Does the man or the woman want to get back to basics? And then you got to ask yourself a question: do you know what the basics are? I'm a millennial just like you. You might be a little bit older than me, but I remember reading books. I know what it's like to go to the library. You got to go to the catalog. Yes. Once the catalog, then you got to go look and find the book. Now, when I read books, I don't read books anymore. I do an audio book, because an audio book, I can listen to the book, digest it a lot better. I can drive and listen. It's hard to drive and read. I can listen to my audiobooks while I'm cooking, while I'm cutting the grass, while I'm washing the car. So we have evolved from the traditional of taking time to read books and journals to now there are audio versions. We've went away from doing actual research to I'm just going to go and see what's trending to find out the truth. And sometimes it's hard to find out the truth because there's so many conspiracies that's being thrown out there. You didn't forget what the original topic was about because another conspiracy has came out and it's thrown you in a different direction that you got off topic and off focus from the original topic at hand. So technology plays a role in it. Social media plays a huge role in it because it's a distraction. I can remember when it was just Facebook, Twitter. Now you have Instagram. Now the latest trending thing is TikTok. TikTok has taken over because, when you look at millennials doing it, now baby boomers are doing it. So baby boomers are starting to get into the TikTok era. Yeah, you have the younger crowd, you have the millennials, you have the Gen Z, but you really have a lot of baby boomers getting into TikTok now, and it's giving them a lane to where they're coming back to say, okay, I can do this. The Instagram and the Facebook, that might be a little too confusing just because of so many functions. But the TikTok, I can make a video and do something and feel like, okay, I'm still hip, I'm still cool.
Yeah.
But you just got to get back to what's important. And in order to do that, it has to go back to an individual basis. And I think once you fix it at an individual level, then it'll grow to a collective level. But right now, trying to look at it as a lump sum, it's virtually impossible.
It's virtually impossible. I mean, literally. Back to sports. We talked about how sometimes, like, with this thing with Kyrie in the Jewish community, now he has to do 6 things in order to get his job back, which is so odd to me but people got to realize, and I was talking to a friend about it last week about Kyrie. I'm like, as far as the Jews and the gays, they pretty much run this country. They run the world in a sense. And, if you say something about the
LGBTQ.
Thank you. If you say something about that community or the Jews, you have some problems. But why are minority experiences within our country easily dismissed? Why? I mean, you kind of hit on it a little bit earlier on, but can you elaborate a little bit more? Why do you think that? And like you said, we're both from Mississippi. You're a Black man from Mississippi. So what are your thoughts?
Every other ethnic group, every other cultural group knows about African Americans. Every other group, such as the Caucasian community, the Hispanic community, the Jewish community, they are collectively as one. The only group of people that don't come together are Black people.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm talking politics to somebody, especially Democrats, and they will say, well, what's the Black agenda from the Republican side? I say, what is the Black agenda, period? I say the Black agenda from the Republican side is no different than the Black agenda from the Democrat side.
Right.
And I say that to say this: no candidate will isolate an agenda for Black people because they already know Black people are not on the same accord. It's hard for us to agree on anything. We can't even agree on money. So as it relates to minorities, the reason we don't get the respect that we deserve is because we can't come together collectively to demand our respect.
That makes sense.
So I can't respect you if you don't respect yourself, meaning you don't even respect each other from within your own community. How do you expect people that don't look like you to respect you? So it's sensitive, it's touchy, but it's facts. And I tell people all the time, we can't expect somebody that doesn't look like us to advocate us. Meaning, if you're going to somebody that's a white male that's running for office, and you say, hey, well, this is what we're looking for in the Black community. One, that individual is not Black, so they can only go so far with you when it comes to your level of understanding and sympathizing with you. Me, I'm a heterosexual Black man. I am not part of the LGBTQ community. I can sympathize with them as far as discrimination, but at some point I have to get off because I can only go so far. That doesn't mean I don't have respect for the LGBT community. That just means that my sympathy can only go so far because one, I'm not affected by it. Two, I'm not a member of that community. So we as Black people, we have to come together and figure out, okay, what are we going to stand for? And I utilize the LGBT community for simplicity because they came together on certain issues. They did not budge. And once they made a reckoning of their presence, then they came back with reinforcements, and then they came back with more agendas that they wanted to see in the form of legislation. And you see it today. You can't say the word gay unless it relates to somebody's name without being called to HR. So that means that there's consequences and repercussions for saying something about a member of the LGBT community. There's no consequences or repercussions for talking about African American community, whether it's negative or positive. There's no consequences. You can talk about African Americans negatively and there's no consequence. And some Blacks are like, well, that's wrong. I say, I disagree. We have our own rappers that talk about our Black women, from the B word to the H word, negatively, knowingly and willingly for profit. And we support that. So how can we ask others that don't look like us to say, hey, you need to respect us and stop disrespecting us? You can't ask for that. That's hypocritical.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm trying to see where did it all unravel. It seemed, in the civil rights era, we were working together. It seemed, I believe some of them probably was jealous of Martin Luther King or Malcolm, certain leaders because they were getting all this shine. Do you think it started kind of unraveling at that point, in a sense, because we were like, really, it seemed, we weren't born, but from reading and documentaries, it seemed that they were unified. The Panthers, it seemed.
Go back a little further. It started in slavery. The House Negro versus the Field Negro.
Yeah. Now you're right.
That's where I think
it all started.
That's where I think it happened.
Also in that time, that's when the white slave owners were taking the Black men from their families. So that unity started unraveling and started having them have, that's a generational curse. Men cheating. I don't care what nobody. It's a choice. It is a choice, but I think it all started from back then. Like you just said, it all started from slavery. You're right.
And a lot of people, men and women, don't understand Black men having multiple babies by different women is a learned behavior that was forced upon us. It was something
learned.
that was forced.
Not
where
saying it's
they would-
right, but it's
Right.
learned.
It's a learned behavior, something that was forced, where they would take us in a room and blindfold us and force us to have sex with other female slaves. And a lot of times they would put me in a room and it would be me having sex with my mom.
Jesus.
So it's something that's forced. So, and it was with the intention of, I'm going to take a black male slave that's big and strong and tall with a black female slave that's big, strong and tall, and to create a super slave.
Right.
That was the intention. That was the end game behind it. So when you have that type of behavior and it trickles down to the civil rights era, where we have so many black children that go fatherless or that go motherless. And then you have it where black women were being told, hey, the federal government will provide us federal assistance for you in the form of housing and food stamps, but you cannot bring your husband. So the husband can't come home. Now the husband is at work and he's training a white individual how to do a job, not knowing that I'm training you how to do my job, and then I get laid off. So I can't go home. I don't have a job. Now I'm helpless as a man. I can't even provide and take care of my family.
Wow.
And I can't go home. I don't have a lot of places I can go.
If we ever get it together and unify, that's why they don't, because the power behind it is going to be amazing. And it's so sad.
It's difficult at times. Like when I talk to families that may be on public assistance, they may, have food stamps. A lot of times I ask the question, how long have you been on public assistance? How long have you been on food stamps? And some of them will look at me like, what are you talking about?
Like, this is my life. This is
right. It's not a
my
problem.
mama was on food stamps.
Yes, my mom
Her
was on,
mama
my
was
grandma
on
was
food
on.
stamps.
They don't look at it as a
Wow.
problem. And I say, you're looking at a temporary solution for a minor setback. You're taking a temporary solution and making it a full-time career for a minor setback. Me, I don't believe public assistance should be a lifelong thing. I believe it should be something that's like 5 to 7 years. Either you come out of the program with a degree or a trade. You get a 1-year extension if you have a child, not 4 or 5 kids, a child, but you got to have some type of boundaries where you're forcing a person to become an asset to society. And when you don't do that, now you rely on our taxpaying dollars to take care of this individual, but our taxpaying dollars are enabling this individual, because if they try to get on their feet, then you threaten them and say, hey, we're going to cut back your food stamps. You're making too much money. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Sonya, I'm sorry. I got to go down to part-time. I can't afford to lose my food stamps.
Wow.
So how does a person get off of it? It's all a cycle. You see the music that's being created. Like, I see one aspect, black women say, hey, I wish black rappers would respect us more and not make us the blunt of their music. But then I see the flip side of it when it's Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B. They say the same exact thing that the black rappers are saying. And I'm like, this is being viewed as black woman empowerment. I'm like, wait a minute, whoa. I'm wrong if I call a black woman the B word or the H word, but if you say it as black woman empowerment, I think that's a double standard.
I think it's their way of taking the word and taking the power from it, just like the N word. I think when we started as a society using the N word minus the ER, it was our way, men call, their brother, what's up? And that's what they started doing. And it took the power that the slave owners or the white person has, or whoever uses the word. And I think that's what they're doing. I mean, I grew up with Lil' Kim, and she was pretty racy for that time in the 90s.
Very edgy, very.
I get what you're saying about,
Very edgy. She pushed the line.
She pushed the line. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember all the lyrics, but I don't know. I totally agree with what you're saying. We have to stop talking to our women like that. Because I thought about it one day. I was like, I've never heard any country song, anything rock talking about their women like that, but us.
Heavy metal. It's definitely a trend, and I can tell amongst black women, just black women alone, how far we have went left. When I can see a bunch of black women ranging from teenagers to grown women that will talk amongst themselves and use the B word. I can remember if a woman called another woman a B word, it was an instant fight.
Oh, it's still a fight for me. Don't try it. I don't play those games. No.
But now it's just a normal conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so what's the cutoff now? It can't be the N word. It can't be the B word. So what is the cutoff now that triggers a reaction? Because now I'm like, y'all saying the B word to each other and y'all are smiling. I'm like, whoo, times have really changed.
Times have changed. You know, I'm gonna get back to the sports thing, and I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna wrap this up. But I was listening to the radio the other day, and I mean, I was like saying, you can't listen to this because it is so demeaning to women. But I loved it growing up. At Jackson State, because it was ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. So you know the words, you know how it starts. When I first met, first he was talking nice about her, then, then it just went left. And I was like, you can't like this anymore. Not because of your chronological age, but because you've grown in areas in your life where this is not acceptable. And it's mainly the music, it's the track. It's not, but I know it's, yeah. Yeah. So
when you have evolved, it touches your soul. Like I can hear certain music and be like, nah. Like my son, I mainly play a lot of blues and jazz and gospel around him. So since before he was born, he knew about Sam Cooke.
Oh, that's great.
He knew about B.B. King. He knew about Tyrone Davis. He knew about Marvin Cease. He can hear a song like Candy Liquor and somebody like, that is nasty. I'm like, you know what? I grew up on that music and we were never bad.
I don't like blues though.
I love blues. Blues is just, I grew up going to horse shows on Saturday. And you got a horse show, you got the blues. And that was family for me because that's where all ages could come together and there was no fight.
Right.
No fight. Young, old, they come together, they groove, they have a good time. You might have an argument here and there, but other than that, everybody groove. Now it's hard to groove without somebody pulling out a gun.
That's true. That's because these young men don't know how to fight. They were not taught how to fight. They thinking shooting somebody is supposed to finish it all. Learn how to fight. Yeah. And a lot of them probably, don't have fathers around who, because my daddy taught my brother how to fight. It was like, no, you stand up for yourself. And that was very important for a man to teach their sons how to fight if they needed to defend themselves, not shooting every 5 minutes. You can't, these people can't come back. You're ruining people's lives, including yours, when you do that. But yeah, I totally agree. But real quick, you touched on, and I wasn't even gonna bring that up, but it is kind of it is political. This Brett Favre thing, he stole millions of dollars from DHS, which is Department of Human Services, and it was dealing with money that you said that us taxpayers are, paying in the system for them to be able to eat and take care of their kids. What are your thoughts on that?
He needs to pay for that. If it's been proven that he took it, there needs to be.
Well, he gave some of it back a few years ago. He gave actually some of it back.
No, not all. So
yeah, not all. And then the text messages of him talking about it, saying who's going to find out, lets me know what he did. He knew he was wrong.
Right, he did it knowingly and willingly. So therefore, it needs to be an investigation. Charges need to come before him if there's enough evidence for a charge, and we need to follow the proper proceedings of the legal documentation. If it was a black person, you would investigate, charge, go before a grand jury to see if there's enough evidence to have a trial, and we move on and we get ready for a trial. That needs to happen. We don't need to drag our feet, because now you're setting the precedence and you're showing people the right complexion gets you the right connection, which can not get you any jail time.
Right.
And I don't think that's right.
And that includes former Governor Bryant as well. He needs to be dealt, I mean, you know, like you said, charges need to be brought up if they did anything illegal, which I think they did. One last thing, what are your thoughts on Brittany Griner? Do you feel that she's being a pawn in the politics game between Russia and the USA?
Yes, I think I believe she's been a pawn. However, she got caught at the wrong time. You got caught at the wrong time. You know, you got to be aware of your surroundings. You got to be aware of what's going on in the news. You got to be aware of what's going on in the world as it relates to Russia and Ukraine having a war. You play basketball for Russia. You fly from the States to Russia. You get caught with this. Hey, I don't know how much we can help you right now because we're trying to assist Ukraine in this war that they're dealing with. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying you just got a prime example. If you and I at Metro 2001, we leave, security guard already said, hey, they got a checkpoint at Ellison 80. We get on Highway 80 and we drive straight to the checkpoint, and we've been drinking. Breathalyzer come out, we pop over the limit. Now we got a DUI. Who's at fault?
Us, because we
right. We were already warned, so we could have easily went around it. So at some point, people gotta, yes, it's a bad situation. But when I ask people the one question, did she legally get caught with this? Was it a setup or not, or did she legally get caught with this?
Yeah, she did. I mean, but you just said well, why would they set her up? Well, only for this political pawn, if that was the case. But it seems like she said she didn't know it was in there. Again,
you got to be aware of your surroundings. You got to be aware of who's in your corner. You got to be aware. In Russia. I'm going to a foreign country where I have no say so. I'm in somebody else's backyard and playing by their rules. I need to make sure that I don't have nothing on me that's going to cause me to get in trouble and mess up what I have going on back home. I feel sorry for the young lady, but at the end of the day, there has to be accountability somewhere. So do you think 10 years is fair to keep her in prison there for 10 years for that? No, I don't think it's fair. I don't. I think it's a little harsh. I think she's being used as a pawn, and she is. She's being used as a pawn to go ahead and bargain for other people that the United States have. So hopefully we can get her back home. But history has shown Black people don't make good hostages. You just can't negotiate with Black hostages. I've never seen it. If you have, let me know. But I've never, not to be funny, but I've just never seen it. We do not make good bargaining chips for hostage negotiations. That's really sad. So what if it was LeBron James or Michael Jordan or somebody like that? Will they, they would negotiate for him, but here's the thing. I don't think LeBron or Michael make that mistake knowing how much. Oh, no, I agree. Yeah, they're smart enough. They're too smart because they're responsible for providing food for a lot of families. They're not going to do that. Right. Well, so is she, supposedly. Right. So, I mean, I hate it. I do have one more question. Has sports bastardized true patriotism? Say that again. Say that again. I couldn't hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Say that again. It was a glitch. Say that again. I'm sorry. Has sports bastardized true patriotism? In some way, yes. So if I look at the Kaepernick situation, he was taking the need to bring an awareness, and it got spun around and said, no, you're disrespecting the flag, even though he knowingly and willingly went on camera to say, hey, I'm not trying to disrespect a flag. I am trying to bring an awareness to the Black community. Yeah. Right. I'm bringing an awareness to something that needs to be addressed, not from the streets, but I want to address it with my platform, with my status of who I am. And when that happened, people had to react. The powers that be like, no, we got to do something to deflect and distract. So that's when you get, oh, he's not being patriotic. He's disrespecting the flag. The man never said that. The man said what he's doing, and that type of patriotism was misconstrued on purpose because of the end game that Kaepernick was trying to portray.
What about Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, aka Chris Jackson? I think it was in 1996, where he sat due to his religion. He's a Muslim. He did not stand for the national anthem, and he ultimately lost his job because of that. What do you think about that? Do you think he should get an apology? And do you, hey man, and do you also think that they should give him back pay for that? And he also has a show coming out, on a documentary on Showtime coming out next year as well.
I do, from the standpoint of violated a person's right, freedom of free speech. There's no law that states that I have to stand for the national anthem. So it goes to show you, a person of color, you don't have much of a right. You can't do certain things, you can't say certain things. But
the rules were not made for us.
Right. The rules were made for us to abide by, not for us to challenge.
Absolutely.
And I believe I don't think that's fair. You know, you can have one of the soccer players from the women's soccer team. They can say, hey, we're not going to stand for the national anthem, and we're going to bring awareness to the unfair wages as it relates to women versus men in sports. And that will get a certain level of respect as far as patriotism, like, hey, we need to address this. But if other individuals do it that look like me and you, is no, you're not being patriotic, you're being disrespectful to the flag. Wait a minute, this has nothing to do with the flag. I'm using my platform to exercise my right. I want people to see what it is I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And once you see why I'm doing it and you allow me to speak, you can go investigate it for yourself to see. There are cops killing Black people. Okay, well, let's see if Kaepernick is telling the truth. Hey, he really is telling the truth. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah. But
that was never put out. It was a spinoff of he's disrespecting the flag and the soldiers that have risked their lives for it. And I don't think that's right. That was never the case.
Well, instead of us getting a law to not kill Blacks, we got a Juneteenth, and I'm thankful for that. But you know, I'm tired of barbecuing. I need y'all. We need to stop killing our own people, but cops need to do it as well. Not all cops are bad. Please know, I know that for sure. But I know there are some out there who care less about the Black community, and they want us all gone. I'm sorry, I said it.
I respect the holiday Juneteenth.
I respect it, but they gave us that. That was like, I'm not gonna sign this bill to not for a law to not kill you. They did it for the Asians immediately when they killed those Asians in the nail shop, and it happened like the next month. We have been getting killed for not thousands, hundreds of years, hundreds. And just, I mean, we're in the 2000s. We're in the 2022, and they are still killing us. And it's okay. No, I respect I love Juneteenth. When I moved to Texas, I learned about Juneteenth. They didn't teach us that here in Mississippi. But when I moved to Dallas, I understood what it meant, and I'm thankful for the holiday. Don't get me wrong, but they gave us that instead of giving us a law to stop killing Black people. I'd rather have that versus the holiday right now.
To me, the holiday was almost like a slap in the face. Like, here you go,
yes,
Black community, here's an extra day of rest. I'm like, I mean, what is this? Are we going back to slavery or something? I need an extra day of rest. I'm like, why can't I get legislation that's going to protect me?
Thank you.
You know, if you can come up with a bill to stop Asian hate, But it goes back to what I said earlier. The Asian community is one. They're on the same accord. They really don't have a lot of disagreements. They come together, especially when it's going to benefit them as a whole. They come together for that.
Right.
We don't do that. So again, it's hard to get a bill passed for the African American community when we can't come together and support a bill. Everybody that's Black is not going to support the bill to protect the African Americans. Everybody's not going to do it. Because even if you put the bill out, prime example, I'll never forget this. I remember when David Banner was passing out flyers to abolish the flag, the state flag. I'll never forget this. I was helping pass out flyers, and Banner was like, "Hey man, we've been talking about this for years. Here's our opportunity to let the state of Mississippi know we are not going to stand for this. We're not going to stand for this rebel flag." When it came time to vote, we didn't vote. We didn't show up and show our presence to say, "Hey, we're going to stand unified and we're going to vote against this flag." Some of us did and some of us didn't. And once that happened, it's almost was like, okay, you had your opportunity.
Yeah.
He gave you a chance to come together. You could have easily shut us up by voting this flag down, and it didn't happen. It had to be years later, and it had to be a national stage of watching the Black man die.
Yeah.
Just for it to have that type of effect, for it to be a spiral across the United States, especially down south. And it's sad that we couldn't come together in the state of Mississippi as Black people and just do something as simple as just, all you gotta do is vote and this flag goes away.
Yeah.
It took Banner a minute just to get to that point of, okay, let's go vote. And once that happened, we didn't show up, and I was just like, wow. I said, how? Why not? I'm like, this is what we asked for. We begged for this. And once it came, and it was easy, just show up, vote, and they won't say nothing else about us and about this flag if we let them know we are not going to stand for it. And we couldn't do that. And little simple stuff like that makes it hard for legislation to be passed that protects African Americans.
Well, we have to make some changes. We really, really do.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Before I let you go, I play a game that's called You Can Get With This or You Can Get With That. And what that is, you know, I'm a hip hop baby. What that is, it's a way for the guest. It's a way for me and the listeners to get to know the guest. I'll ask you a few questions, real easy, and you choose the one that best fits you, okay? No answer is wrong. But you better get this one right. Do you prefer living in the East Coast or the South?
South.
Why?
Family. You know, I'm a first-time father, so everybody seeing my son, he's asleep. As it, you know, to watch my mom and my dad play with my son, it does something to you when you see that. And then you see how you want family on both sides, as well as my in-laws. When I watch my father-in-law, my mother-in-law interact with my son, there's a different level of love that you can't describe.
You can't describe it.
You know, if he wasn't here, I would say East Coast all day, just due to access.
Yeah.
You know, you can't beat the access living on the East Coast compared to the South. Now,
correct.
Some people may disagree, but I exclude major cities in the South, like a Dallas or Houston or Atlanta, because those are huge metropolitan areas, top 10 cities. So they have access. But as opposed to the East Coast, it's just a different level of access.
I agree. I totally agree. Especially because this just happened this week, and I'll probably be asleep in about an hour. Do you prefer daylight savings or fallback?
Neither.
I prefer daylight savings. However, I do appreciate the extra hour, but this first week is Sunday. It felt like it was 80 hours on Sunday. It was forever.
A lot of states are talking about abolishing and just doing away with it because they're starting to see how it affects people. You know, it affects people's work. You know, you come to work an hour late. I'm sorry. You know, then after a while, you ask yourself, is it worth us even acknowledging this? Or do we just stay with the time that we have and we just let the seasons do what they do?
Yeah, let's keep daylight savings. Would you prefer being afraid or embarrassed?
Embarrassed.
Why?
Because embarrassment teaches me a lesson. Being afraid doesn't really teach me anything. I'd rather be embarrassed because I can learn from
Yeah,
it.
that's over it. Yeah.
Because being embarrassed is something that I did that I need to correct.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you trip and fail, well, yeah, I guess you could correct that by watching how you walk. So I guess, okay, you better get this one right. We had a conversation about this one. Do you prefer Red Apple Inn or Stamps Burgers?
I'm gonna say Stamps.
You better.
I grew up on Stamps. I'm related to the Stamps. So Red,
Right.
and you know what's funny? I wouldn't even put Red Apple Inn in it. I would take Big John's over Red Apple Inn.
See, this is the conversation we had. I thought Big John's and Red Apple Inn was the same thing. Are they not?
Depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
So I know the story behind it. So some people don't know. Big Apple Inn and I'm sorry, Big John's.
Is it Big Apple Inn or Red Apple Inn? See, I don't even know. It's Big Apple Inn.
They're related.
Yeah, it's Big Apple Inn, I think.
Some people don't know that they're related. They are actually related.
Okay, let's say Big John's then, because I remember us having this conversation, and Red Apple Inn or Big Apple Inn, whatever it is, it was. Remember, I was doing something and I was down the street. You were like, get me some, and I was like, I didn't even know that was there, and I put it on Facebook. But okay, Big John's or Stamps Burgers?
I gotta go with Stamps.
Okay. Cool. Better.
Stamps is gonna fill me up a lot more, and I can stretch that burger.
Yeah, now that's the truth. We're 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. Which is your favorite, Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Christmas.
Why?
Christmas.
Oh, because you got a baby now, because you can Christmas gifts.
You know, Thanksgiving was always just another holiday to me. It used to be an important holiday, but now Thanksgiving is just another day to where you got some people don't even cook for Thanksgiving Day. They're more enthused about Black Friday than they are the actual Thanksgiving Day itself. You know, some people will sacrifice Thanksgiving and say, you know what, I'll just come home on Christmas because that's a longer vacation for me. That's a longer time for me to spend with family than Thanksgiving because it's just too quick of a turnaround.
All right. I think I prefer Thanksgiving more. I do. What's your favorite Christmas meal or side or?
Favorite side? Bread pudding.
Perfect. Okay. Would you prefer a time machine or a magic wand?
Time machine.
Why? Where do you want to go back to?
Go back to college. I would go back to college because I lived with my great grandmother. And I would then go back in my early teens and spend more time with my great grandfather on my mom's side because he actually showed me a receipt of when he bought his freedom.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. I told my mom that not too long ago, and she was like, "Really? Grandpa, I don't show you that?" I said, "Yeah." But me being a 40-year-old Black man, I didn't realize how blessed I was to see somebody from slavery.
Oh
and
God.
I wish I wish I would have saved it. I never got a chance to. But just to know that I was only 4 generations removed from slavery, I can actually tell somebody, my great grandmother on my mom's side, they were slaves.
Well, actually
Slaves. I'm like, they were actually slaves.
yeah.
My great grandfather would talk about it. He wouldn't talk much about it just because of how painful it was. But I can remember it just as plain as day. He showed me like, what is this? He's like, that's my receipt from slavery, boy. I was like,
Jesus.
oh. And my mom looked at me and she had a look on her eye. I'll never forget. She was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. I said, we had the conversation. Just as plain as day. And I was just, looking back, I didn't realize how powerful and how priceless it was. You know, most people, when I run into now, they don't even know who their grandparents are, yet alone great grandparents.
That's
So
true.
when I say, hey, my great grandmother died my senior year of college, they'll say, well, how old are you? I was like, you just got to understand, I grew up in a generation where people actually live past the age of 70.
That's true.
And we had a saying growing up in Mississippi, if you live past 70, you on somebody else's time.
Yeah, that's God's time, because he only promised us 70 years.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that's true. Where was I? Drake or Kendrick Lamar?
Ooh, I would go with Kendrick Lamar. He is a little, not necessarily smoother, but just easier on your soul as far as I can listen to him and just press play.
I prefer his message. Yeah,
I can just listen to him and press play and not feel some type of way.
I agree. Yeah. Would you prefer the painful truth or a comforting lie?
Painful truth. I always believe in the truth, because even if it's gonna hurt your feelings, I'm gonna tell you the truth. You may not like what I say, you may not like how I said it, but I want you to respect me because I told you a truth. Now how you digest it, that's on you. You can't control how people digest the truth. You just got to make sure that they know the truth and not try to dilute it.
That's true.
That's the right way to say it.
Right. No, I agree. Both are bad, but would you prefer losing your sight or losing your hearing?
Losing my hearing. I don't care about hearing. I just want to see. A blind man can't drive. I can drive and have a computer, a laptop. You can type the message. You want to go?
True. And read your lips.
Right. I can sign language. I can learn sign.
Right. You're right. Last but not least, which is your favorite actor? Denzel Washington or Will Smith?
Denzel.
Favorite movie?
Life. Eddie Murphy and Marlon.
No, with Denzel.
With Denzel? I forgot the name of the movie, but it was him playing a garbage man, and he cheated on his wife.
Fences?
I think it was Fences. And what I loved about that movie was him being a black father getting into it with his son.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I don't have to like you. I'm your father. My job is to keep a roof over your head and put clothes on your back and food in your belly. Just that interaction, I was like, yeah, and me being a father, to see that I can have a better understanding for it, and be like, okay, he's telling him a hard truth that his son really wasn't ready for. His son was thinking that I don't like you would hurt Denzel's feelings, and then actually it was the opposite. He was like, okay, I don't care if you don't like me. It's not my job to like you. It's my job to just love you and provide for you. Right. And that was a harsh reality for his son, and it stuck with him. That's something that sticks with you. As a young black man, when your father says that to you, it's not pretty, but you understand it when it's your turn to become a father.
That's true. I agree. Julian, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've really enjoyed you and our little guest that came on. I can't wait to meet him.
Thank you. I apologize, but
you're fine.
Sometimes when I do these leadership calls and stuff, I typically will have my son with me. But as he's getting older, I'll give him his little freedom until it's like a tap out. He's like, all right, now I done let you talk long enough. I want to come in and be on the camera. So
exactly.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Hopefully the audience doesn't get too distracted, because typically when he comes, nobody wants to talk to me anymore. Everybody wants to talk to him and ask him questions.
Right. No, you're fine. Tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media.
You can just look me up. I'm on Twitter at Julian Boykin. Facebook is Julian Boykin. I also have a podcast where I interview people running for office. It doesn't matter if it's local, state, or federal.
What's the name of it?
Political Talks with JB. Political Talks with JB.
Okay. Political Talks with JP.
With JB.
JB as in boy. Okay. Gotcha. All
So,
right.
yeah, and that was just something I started during COVID, just to show people this is who is vying for your vote. And I want people to understand it's easy to get distracted in national elections like Georgia if you don't live in Georgia. But if I ask you, do you have a city council or a county executive in your area? What district do you live in? And you can't. I'm like, well, here's my podcast. I interview somebody that's running for your vote right there in your own backyard. Do you know him or her? Have you heard of them? And started getting people to understand how to view politics and say, okay, what are your core values? Look at each individual candidate and see how they align with your core values before you decide I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm independent. Right. Because you might find yourself going across the line, especially in this day and time. Each candidate is not the same. They're not a traditional Democrat. They're not a traditional Republican or independent. You may find when you're going to go across the line based on who you see and like and their campaign and how it benefits you and your household.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, make sure you guys, you follow that and check it out, especially if you're into politics. He really knows what he's talking about. And guys, you can follow me at She Say Sports on Facebook, She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, at She Say 23 on Twitter, and please subscribe to our YouTube page. All right, guys, until next time, this is Sonia with She Say Sports. Feel better, sweetheart. Oh.